Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew Davis, me once again. Welcome back to another movie review, aka after I saw I'm staying at my dad's place again. I'm in the laundry room because I'm sleeping in a different area tonight. That's not important right now, but what is important is that I get to talk about Evil Dead Rise. Now, Evil Dead Rise is the latest installment in the Evil Dead franchise, and while Ash isn't in the movie, we follow a family. A woman comes over visiting her sister and her kids, and from there, one of the kids finds the Necronomicon. And from there, if you've seen the previous Evil Dead movies, you kind of know where that's going to be going. And from there, the family starts falling apart when, of course, their mother is the first one to get the Deadite possession. And from there, we got ourselves a roller coaster ride of blood and horror. And that's really all that you should expect. Now, of course, it's an Evil Dead movie. I love the Evil Dead movies. I re-reviewed all of them last year during my Halloween movie marathon. I enjoy all the movies, including the remake, and I absolutely loved Ash vs. Evil Dead, the TV series. I was really upset when that show got canceled, so I was hoping if they did decide to make another movie, we would understand what exactly happened at the end of the last season. But while we do have a new Evil Dead movie, this movie was just going to completely ignore that and do its own thing, which had me a little bit worried, like, different director, different characters. I mean, sure, the remake had different characters because it's a remake, but I don't know. I did not want this movie to suck because, well, I mean, all the movies are great. Like, I do not want there to be a bad Evil Dead movie. Please don't let there be a bad one. And with this movie, that hasn't happened yet. And I'm glad, because my fears went away as soon as the movie started. And after it started, it just got better and better with each scene. I had myself a blast with this one. This film rocked. I cannot tell you how happy I am to see that someone actually understands the formula and just what made it so good to begin with. While sure, there's no humor in it, and that's personally how I like my Evil Dead movies. And sure, that's one thing I appreciate about the remake, is the fact that it ignored most of the comedy and just did its own thing with its horror. And, well, yeah, sure, Evil Dead is a lot better when it has bits of humor in it. I mean, Ash vs. Evil Dead had a lot of that. But it's really nice to know that it wants to go for more horror than comedy. And sure, I feel like with Ash, it's definitely going to be more comedic, which is probably why he isn't in this movie. But at the same time, I didn't mind the characters in this film. What I found really unique about this film is how it doesn't take place in a cabin in the woods. The entire thing takes place in an apartment complex. And it involves a family and not a group of teenagers, which honestly makes it more suspenseful. The fact that the family just gets torn apart, and, well, I don't mean to pieces. I mean, they start falling apart when, of course, the dead rise, and they start, blaming each other for it happening. I mean, you would probably blame someone because one of them took the Necronomicon. And, of course, the Necronomicon looks different. It has teeth and stuff. And it's used well with practical effects, and there's quite a bit of it. Like, of course, the scene where drinking glass and it's in her throat. Like, it's a really well-crafted movie, and it's stunning to look at, too. It's really nice to see that horror films can still have really good use of practical effects. And there's quite a bit of it, too. Even the makeup effects are excellent. And performances, most of them, I thought were really solid. Especially when it came to the demon aspects or the Deadite aspects. They are creepy. And sure, they don't have a whole lot of humor behind them. I mean, there are some mild, bits of humor here and there. But it mostly focuses on the horror. And the kills, too, are pretty well done, too. I mean, there's some creative ones. There are some that definitely do feel a bit familiar. In fact, there are some hidden details to the film, but it's not like just throwing a bunch of Easter eggs in your face every 5 seconds or so. It doesn't show hey, remember this from the first movie or the second movie? Remember this from Army of Darkness? It doesn't do all that. Well, sure, it does have some callbacks to the franchise, but it's not fully in your face, and I feel like they're used pretty well throughout a lot of the movie. While I will say the opening is great, spoiler, it's not really that big, but it sort of takes place before the actual event of the entire movie, and that kind of confused me a bit because, well, I mean, like, who are these people? Like, do we see them during the movie or what? But it all makes sense much later on. So, really, that's just one thing that was on my mind that kind of took me away from it a little bit. But really, it didn't ruin everything. Like, I knew I had to get an answer from this, and I did. And I honestly knew where exactly it would lead to. So, it really wasn't a bother. Once I watch it again, I'll all like, oh, I know what's going to happen. So, yeah, it's kind of like that. But I do see myself rewatching this when I marathon the Evil Dead movies. In fact, this movie was so good, I thought it was better than the remake. I thought it was even better than Army of Darkness. Like, yeah, shockingly, I think it's better than one of the classic Evil Dead movies. Though the first two movies will always be masterpieces and will always be the ones that I'll rewatch the most. This is definitely a great time, for Evil Dead fans because, if you absolutely love the franchise and you just came for a lot of gore, and yes, there's a lot of it. And it's not just the bloody elevator scene, which we saw in the trailer. No, there is quite a bit of blood. There's quite a bit of in-your-face gore. It just gets insane. And the pacing, too, is excellent, too. While it doesn't, throw a whole lot of gore into your face during the first, 30 minutes, the build-up and the suspense is really what kept the movie going and just made the bloody parts all the more worth it. It's something that us, as an audience member, have earned while we wait for the patience and the build-up, because it's not like a thinking movie where you just have to think. It's not like a psychological thriller or anything like that. No, this is an Evil Dead film. And what do we expect from Evil Dead? We expect blood, we expect gore, we expect horror, we expect... some people might expect suspense, though most people just expect gore, and it does have suspense, it has gore, it has some mild humor, though the movie does take away from the humor in favor of the horror, but that really never bothered me at all. In the end, guys, Evil Dead Rise didn't disappoint in the slightest. It's well paced, it's well acted, it has a massive amount of gore that will definitely please fans, and it's not very long too. I honestly wouldn't have minded if it went on 10 more minutes. I mean, I'm not complaining about the runtime, it's just I kind of wouldn't have minded if it lasted longer. I mean, it is the slightly longest film in the franchise, but I don't know. I mean, movies are getting longer, but it really didn't bother. I mean, it's well paced enough, so it never manages to be too slow. There's rarely ever a moment where I'm just taken away from the movie because I just found myself enjoying myself on screen throughout its runtime. If you love the franchise, then chances are you're really going to be satisfied with this one. I was satisfied. It's one of the best horror films of the year, and do not miss this one. You will not be doing yourself a good favor. Go out and see it right now. Grab your friends. Grab the biggest bucket of popcorn you can get because it's more than a good time. I don't really get why this isn't coming out during Halloween, but at the same time, I'm happy that we're getting it now because, wow, I needed to see this. I also find it funny that during the premiere, the worldwide premiere screening, after the movie, during a Q&A section with the cast and Bruce Campbell, there was a fan that was all like, "This movie sucks," and then the audience was just booing at him, and then they just threw him out, and then he kept talking, and Bruce Campbell was all like, "What are you still doing here? Get out!" So they basically got the last laugh, and yeah, maybe it's just due to the fact that Ash might not be in the movie. He might not be in the movie, but that did not ruin anything. That's the least of the movie's problems, and it rarely ever had problems for me. Go out and see it. You'll thank me later, and I say that a lot, don't I? But just trust me, it's more than worth it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Word out.